Yo guys, what is up? Max in our video, and today we're talking about Relic Hunter Legends. Now, what is this game? This is a looter shooter action RPG. Think top-down bullet hell, but with Borderlands style characters, skill trees, action skills, and ways to improve your character, as well as gear score as you level up, challenges, challenging endgame, and a full-fledged single-player campaign. I was given some early access thanks to Gearbox, who is the publisher of this game. The developers are Rogue Snail, and they are the sponsor of this video. We're going to be breaking down what this game is and my initial impressions of it. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Let's get right into it. So we're going to start with an overview of the game, and then we'll get into my actual impressions of it. So to start us off, there are 5 different hunters. These hunters are your classes, and they have different roles. So for example, Ace is the trickster class, or serves the trickster role. We've got Raph, who is the support character, Jimmy, who is damage, Pinky, who is tank, and Seven, who is also a trickster. Now, the reason these characters have roles is because they do different things, and also this game supports up to 4-player co-op, so you can play with different players and take on different missions as different roles to kind of fill in slots where you may need it. Now, I've spent the most of my time on 7. Now, as you can see, 7 currently is level 10 out of 10. We are currently at the level cap. Now, the level cap for 7 is level 10 is not the actual total level cap. It's just the level cap that I can reach at my current hunter rank. Now, what is your hunter rank? Now, or my rebel rank, as you can see, my rebel rank is kind of the thing that unites all of the characters together. So each character levels individually, but you've got this rebel rank, which is kind of your account level, and each character has different missions. As you do those missions, you'll level up your rebel rank, and your rebel rank will allow you to wear better gear, do harder missions, and is kind of your overall account progress versus the character's progress is individualized. So you've got a lot of replayability, leveling up the different characters and doing their different missions. So there's quite a bit of content there, and as you level up these characters, you'll get access to better and better things. For example, the devs hooked me up with some of these like tier 4 gear, which I can't wear right now, but as you can see, this is a tier 4 legendary machine gun that does magnetic damage, but I can't wear this until my like hunter level is higher. I need to hit hunter level 30, and in order to do that, I need to level up my rebel rank. So I wouldn't normally have access to this kind of stuff. I can't wear it yet, but I've got a bunch of like gray gear. But as you can see, you're going to want to really play with a few different classes to level up your rank to start accessing some crazy stuff. So not only does each character have their own progression in their level and the rebel rank challenges that you can do on them, but they also have their own progression in their abilities, their skill trees, and the passive stats that you allocate to them. So to start us off, on my 7, I've been allocating points into Might. Might is going to increase my weapon damage and skill damage, and then I've got like stats that I could spec into for Vigor, for Life and skill duration, Agility for move speed and skill range, and Spirit for ultimate energy and skill recovery. So these are stats, and as I level up, I get to invest points into that. I've also got abilities. Now, you start with 1 ability, and as you level up, you're going to unlock your more abilities. So 7, the Trickster, is a lot about movement, got some cool skills going on. I've got a Mobility Blink, which allows me to dash. I've got Shift Strike, which allows me to jump forward in time to hit an enemy and create a blast of paradox energy. I've got Realignment, which I freeze all nearby enemies. I've got Maelstrom. 7 charges a powerful Void Rift that pulls enemies into it before exploding. This skill can be charged to become even more powerful. I've got Paradox Mark. Enemies hit by 7 skills may get marked and deal less damage. Enemies hit by the Maelstrom or Blink receive a Paradox Mark, which reduces their weapon damage and skill damage by 30%. And I've also got Avatar of Time. 7 lets the ruinous powers of the Paradox flow freely, damaging and freezing all enemies nearby while gaining a special beam attack and extra protection. This is my ultimate skill, this is my passive skill, and these are my different actual skills. And all of these things are active. They're not like oh, you have to pick between one or the other. As you level up the character, you'll get access to all of your skills, and these are all active at all the time. A melee skill, a movement skill, a charge skill, a utility skill, my passive, and my ultimate. And then we get into our skill trees. Next up, we've got our skill trees. If you're familiar with how Borderlands skill trees works, you're probably already going to understand these. We've got 3 different skill trees for each character that focus on different things, and the way that you progress through the skill trees is you need to hit a certain mark of amount of points to reach the next tier. So for example, I'm currently speccing into parallel lines, but I didn't need to fill out the entire tree to get there. I just needed to hit a certain amount of points on the tier below, or the full tier, to get down to this. So I've got 4 points here and 1 point here, which allowed me to get down to parallel lines. And then to get to these next skills, I could put points in hard delete or mark of destruction, and then unlock the next tier if I didn't want to put points into parallel lines. Now 7, my character is focused on water damage and freeze damage, or freezing enemies. I've got a lot of mobility and I've got a lot of crowd control. So the destroyer skill tree is pretty much focused on my damage. I've got Target Cracker, which allows me to, whenever I blink, to release 6 projectiles that deal water damage. I've got Mark of Destruction, which whenever I mark enemies, they take 50 water damage per second. And then I'm speccing into Parallel Lines, which gives my bullet damage a chance to mark enemies. And then as I go, I'm going to get more skill damage, more Maelstrom damage, Maelstrom pull range, and enemies marked with Paradox Mark are 30% more vulnerable to water damage. So very much like water-focused gun skill tree here going. The constant is a little bit more survivable, or like shield focused. I've grabbed the duration of my freeze, stun, and silence effects are reduced by 20%, and blink is going to give me overshield for a little bit of survivability. Taking damage has a 20% chance to mark nearby enemies with a paradox mark, just more uptime of our damage. And then as I go down, when marking an enemy with paradox mark, gain 5% damage reduction for 7 seconds, stacks up to 10 times. This is 50% damage reduction for me. Remove all stacks if you have no overshield. So I'm going to have to keep up my my shield as I go with this skill tree, but good survivability there. And then the Savior's got some freeze things. When Shift Strike hits an enemy marked with Paradox Mark, it freezes all nearby enemies for 3 seconds. That's massive. I'm going to increase the duration and freeze conditions on other players, or sorry, enemies. More skill range, more skill recovery, and 7 and allies recover 7% of damage dealt as life when dealing damage to enemies marked with Paradox Mark. I'm going to pair that with my parallel lines that my weapon damage can mark enemies, and then I'm just going to be shooting, freezing, crowd controlling things, and all of this is going to help me take on the most difficult content. As you can see, I haven't progressed this character too much, but you can kind of see where the builds will align. Now, I can pair that with different gear because gear also has a lot of abilities to it. For example, these boots gain plus 30% dodge chance when you're charging your charge skills. I have a few charge skills. I've got pieces of gear gain overshield whenever you defeat an enemy. All the like high tier gear comes with multiple stats, as well as these like legendary kind of stats. Precision damage plus 50%. You can no longer deal critical hits, like pretty big actual effects. And then I'm just going to need to find a water weapon that's really good. Right now I'm just using this water pistol to pair with my water synergies. But yeah, there is quite a bit of like synergistic things that you can go between your gear, between your weapons, between your skill trees, between your attributes, if you're looking to really deep dive with these characters. Here's a quick look at my Jimmy character and the build I'm going for. Now, Jimmy is the damaged class and has the skill, utility skill, perfect angle. Jimmy's next shot ricochets between enemies, can only be used with bullet and projectile weapons. The next 5 shots ricochet, dealing 20% less damage each enemy it hits. This gives me a ricochet skill, and Jimmy also has the passive bullseye. As Jimmy hits enemies with precision hits or crits, his own precision damage is increased for a while. Gain a stack of bullseye when you land a critical hit. Each stack gives plus 5% precision damage to your attacks for 5 seconds. This effect stacks up to 5 times. Now, I'm focusing on this ability of these ricochets and these crits with Jimmy. So I've got Skirmisher. After I use my evasive maneuvers, which is my dodge, I get 30% extra damage for my next 12 shots. I'm using Chain Reaction. My perfect angle hits have a 70% chance to cause injuries to enemies. Then I've got over here, Fast Bullseye. I gain 3 extra stacks of Bullseye when I land a precision hit. So I'm going to be stacking up Bullseye way more. Then I also went here for Risk Management. If you hit a precision hit with a perfect angle, your ricochet shots will also deal precision damage. Adds a 60% precision damage chance to ricochet shots. So my ricochet shots now have 60% crit chance. Each Bullseye stack, which remember I'm getting if I'm critting, also gives me a 6% chance to refresh evasive maneuvers. If I use an evasive maneuvers, I'm going to be getting 30% more damage on my shots. Then I'm going to go for In the Zone, which is going to give me more Bullseye stacks so I can get more benefits from that. And then I'm going to go to Crack Shot, Focus Aiming for 1 second, gives me 5% reload speed and 10% fire rate. This effect stacks up to 10 times for 100% fire rate and 50% reload speed. This is going to be the build that I'm going for Jimmy with like a revolver revolver, like pistol, seems like it's going to be really, really cool. I just wanted to show you guys that because that character is basically full spec. One thing I really love about their skill tree design in this game, I think this is actually brilliant, is the fact that putting points into one skill tree ranks up the other skill trees. So one of the big annoyances is that skills towards the end of the skill tree are usually better than skills at the beginning of the skill tree. You got to go through those skills that you don't really want to get to the good stuff. Not in this game. As you put points, as you can see, I'm really invested into red and green right now. However, I've got really far in the blue tree without putting any points here. Now, I'm not benefiting from any of these skills. None of these skills are actually giving me any benefits. However, I can skip things like shield drain, tactical kick, recovers 30% of my shield if it hits enemies. That seems actually pretty nice, but if I don't want to get that, I don't have to. I can go for on dodge, gain a stack of bullseye, and return 4 rounds directly into my magazine. That's an awesome skill. Works with my build, and once I get some more skill points, I can actually just start investing into that rather than having to spec through the whole tree. This allows me to put more points into other parts of the skill tree and then get skills that I want without having to force myself into skills that don't work for me, which I really, really like. Now, in terms of actually the flow of the game and the gameplay, it's divided into different chapters with different missions. You've got side quests, main story quests, and your map that you're doing is kind of a like overview map, as you can see on screen right now, where I've got different areas and different things to do different missions. We've got like a main town that you can talk to vendors and NPCs and manage your inventory and trade and things like that. And then we've got different skills on the map that you need to do to unlock. They've got different difficulties. So like this is a level 9 skill or level 9 mission with 160 gear score recommended. And then down here we've got like 220 level 16 recommended, 195 recommended, 205, a bunch of different missions with a bunch of different difficulties, and that is just the starting area. As you can see, I haven't unlocked these like asteroid dungeon nemesis or the end of time area. I'm assuming as I play more of the game and unlock these other areas, mission difficulty and recommended gear score is only going to go up. But the missions and the gameplay is it is fairly story driven from what I can tell. There is quite a bit of dialogue. There's a bunch of different characters, and the missions flow out as talking to an NPC, usually accepting a quest, going on it, and then you're just twin stick shooting your way through the game. Now, this is a twin stick shooter. You can choose for a simple input method where you only need to just use your one stick to move around, and you'll basically auto shoot at enemies, which is a lot easier. However, if you pick the mode where you're going to be shooting at enemies manually and actually having to aim, the game will actually give you a 15% just straight up damage increase for picking the harder method, because obviously you're going to have to use your skills a little bit more and aim directly at enemies. So that's what I've been doing, and that feels pretty good. And I mainly play games on controllers, and this game feels great on controller. Now, in terms of my first impressions of the game, I really dig the itemization, the different rarities, the different elements, the characters' skill trees and the attribute points, and the different ways to spec all of their skills and abilities really speaks to me. As you know, I love Borderlands, and this game just kind of screams a lot of the things that I like about Borderlands. We've got different elemental weapons, lots of gear to grind, min-maxing that you can do, and different ways to build different characters, as well as 5 different classes to play on launch and co-op. And as a game to like grind out and like really try to min-max and make different builds, seems like there's a lot of options here. The things that I haven't been enjoying as much about the game is the very heavy dialogue focused in the beginning. As you know, I'm not much of a story gamer, and there is quite a bit of dialogue and story. Thankfully, there is a button to just skip dialogue so you can quickly move through it. For my first hour of the game, I really didn't get to do all that much combat. It is very like heavy story focus when you're first starting out, and then as you get further into the game it opens up, but I did find the beginning of the game quite tedious. Guys, that is going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what your thoughts are on Relic Hunter Legends. Guys, that is going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. That is going to do it for my first impressions of Relic Hunter Legends. I will catch y'all in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.